The place it's coming from is really what matters. This applies in an interaction. Okay, as you learned in 10 game, it's like there's what you say and there's the intention behind it, if it's offering or taking value. But this also applies to how you're going about game. Okay, the big one, and this is the big misconception in the whole pickup community, is that learning game is you going from down here to up here. It's you going out, getting all these different reference experiences, and trying to better yourself as a person. Okay, and it's based on that assumption, on that being, on the place it's coming from, that you are not enough, that you are a piece of shit. Okay, and this is wrong. You need to change the place it's coming from, realize that you're already up here, and what are you really doing learning game is you're getting all these reference experiences, getting rid of all this bullshit, getting out of your own way. Okay, that's learning game. If you keep doing it, coming from the wrong being, coming from the place of I'm down here and I'm trying to get up here, it's not going to work, first of all. And understand, and this is the big one, that everything you do is going to be reinforcing that being. Okay, and this is big. Even if you do get a girl, because it's built on that assumption that I'm a piece of shit, it's going to reinforce I'm a piece of shit. And there is no winning. Okay, you have to fix the being. Now, if you're conscious of this, it's pretty easy, but the big fucking obstacle is that a lot of these assumptions, okay, a lot of the place it's coming from, a lot of the being, they're all subconscious. Okay, they're buried away in your subconscious, and until you bring them up into the light of consciousness, or until you let go of them or get rid of them, you're fucked. Okay, and you can tell yourself as much as you want. It's like, okay, I guess I get it. I guess I am up here, and there's bullshit in the way. But if deep down inside, your subconscious, like if you don't believe that, you're still going to be reinforcing the wrong assumption. So let's start right now by just defining conscious, subconscious. Okay, very simple. Conscious is everything that you're aware of right now. Okay, it's all the thoughts that you're aware of in this moment. Whatever you're thinking, if you're watching this webinar, you're like, oh yeah, I'm listening to Julian. That's conscious. Okay, very simple. Subconscious is simply all the thoughts you're unaware of in this moment. Okay, it's the thoughts that you don't want to look at. It's the thoughts that you just don't want to be bothered with. You can also use unconscious. Okay, subconscious and conscious don't get caught up into words, but that's the basic definition. Okay, a common metaphor to illustrate the two is that of the iceberg, where there's the 10% of the iceberg above the water. Okay, that's your conscious, and then there's the 90% below the water. That's your subconscious. And the subconscious is where, again, it's all those thoughts you're not aware of now. And this is also where you store all of those thoughts that, again, you don't want to deal with, all of those traumatic, negative thoughts. Okay, this is where you store, for example, thoughts or even feelings of shame, vulnerability, violent thoughts, unresolved wounds, traumatic memories, okay, traumatic experiences when you're a kid. It's like you just keep shoving that in your subconscious. Okay, your subconscious really view it as, this is the closet where you can just store all your shit. Okay, here's the trash can of your mind, let's just say. Let's just take one, is a guy who goes to school when he's a kid and he gets bullied. Okay, he gets bullied, he has those traumatic experiences, and obviously, it's not stuff that you're very proud of. It's not stuff that you want to talk about. It's not stuff that you necessarily even want to share, about with anyone. It's like your little secret. Okay, I'm bullied. I'm the reject at school. And what is that reinforcing? I'm a piece of shit. I'm not enough, so on and so forth. So you're bullied. Instead of dealing with that and processing it, because no one teaches you how the fuck to process it, you just stuff it down. And you just keep stuffing it. You go home. You see your parents. You're like, oh, everything's, how's school? Everything's fine. You keep stuffing it down. And that there, guess what? Unless you process it, unless you dive into your subconscious and bring it up, is going to stay there for the rest of your fucking life. Okay? Those thoughts of you being bullied, those, feelings of shame, vulnerability, you thinking you're not good enough because you're bullied. It's like everyone's telling you, hey, dude, you're a fucking loser, piece of shit, like slap you, beat you up. What is that reinforcing? You're not good enough. That's going to stay with you. And you can, move out of your parents' house when you grow up. You can go get a job. You can even try to become successful. There's still going to be that thought deep down in your subconscious that you're a fucking loser that deserves to be bullied and that isn't good enough. Now, you find out about success with women. Like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go get girls. You see a video of, let's just say me. I'm like, hey man, you are good enough. You're like, I'm good enough? I'm like, yes, you are good enough. And you have to build game on that assumption that you're good enough or you're fucked. Logically, that makes sense. Consciously, that makes sense. You decide, okay, I'm going to build it on I'm good enough consciously. That's the 10%. But guess what? 10%, 90%. The 90% will always fucking win. Your subconscious always fucking wins. Because in your subconscious, okay, let's just take that one little thought, for example, if I'm not good enough, I'm bullied. That shit's been on repeat for all those years. That shit's been on repeat for all those years. Most likely, it's been the being that a lot of the doing in your life, not just with success with women, but everything has been built upon. It's been reinforced. And no matter how much you tell yourself, hey, I'm good enough, there's that little voice inside your head. It's like, yeah, right. Another example is you hear someone say, dude, girls love you. You deserve the girl. And then you go out, you're like, girls love me. Girls love me. Consciously 10%. Bang, you see the hot girl. Who the fuck you kidding, dude? Does she really want to be with a guy who got bullied? Do you think she's really going to love you? Look at yourself. Like look in the mirror. Like, would you want to be with you? You're a loser. That's your subconscious. It's all those thoughts that come, boom, to the surface. Okay? And until you deal with them, until you dive into your subconscious, you identify them, you process them, they're going to keep running you, and you're going to keep ending up thinking like, I'm not good enough. Even if you succeed, even if you get the girl out of luck, let's just say, it's going to reinforce that assumption, I'm not good enough. And you'll probably self-sabotage, your relationship will go to shit. Okay, another example is a client I had where he had a traumatic experience where it was with his family. I won't go into too much detail, but it was with his family, and basically, the traumatic experience reinforced that women can't be trusted. That women can't be trusted, that no one can be trusted, and he gets in the game. And he's learning game, but again, everything is coming from, okay, I can't trust anyone. I can't trust anyone. And even if he actually started getting pretty fucking successful, but all of his interactions, like, there was something a little off, and even the girls who he kept seeing after that, at some point it would just end. At some point it would, like, the girl would, like, either leave or he would fuck it up. Why? Because I can't trust anyone. I can't trust women especially. There's that assumption, and everything's built on that assumption. And oftentimes we're not even aware of it. Like, this guy was not aware of it. This guy was like, hey, all my relationships are going to fucking shit. What am I doing wrong? How can I fix this? Okay, and it's, again, what we talked about, where you're trying to fix the effect, not the cause. The cause is bringing awareness and being like, hey, wait a minute. What the fuck is this? Okay, if I take some of my own, like, here's an interesting one. Not, like, funny enough with success with women, but here's another one just in life. This is something I realized, it was last year that it really kicked in after the media scandal, is that one of the assumptions or thoughts that have been fucking festering in my subconscious for years, like my entire life almost, was kind of identifying with, well, one, it's like valuing drama over being happy, and kind of identifying with the like self-destructive artist, let's just say, or it's like when it kind of shit kind of hits the fan. It's like you're this artist and everything's kind of fucking shit's hitting the fan, like debauchery, so on and so forth. That was something in my mind. I'm like, oh, this is who I am, and it would push me. Like, this is what's interesting. It's like it would push me to succeed to a certain extent, just so I could pop it, ruin it, and deal with the drama. And then I would build something up, pop it, deal with the drama. Build something up, pop it, deal with the drama. And that happened in different relationships where I would succeed to get the girl, but then subconsciously I would be succeeding to pop it and deal with the drama. If you look at the media scandal, same thing. Build the brand, pop it, deal with the drama. It's like this self-destructive pattern just keeps repeating. And it goes back, if I look at my past, like even when I was a fucking kid, it's like looking at different bad guys in movies. I'm like, fuck, that's so cool. Look at us. Like, they're so successful. And boom, the drama, the pops. If you take like the movie Blow, the movie Casino, shit like that. I'm like, yes. And subconsciously, that is a kid, like, it's like that's the shit. And I didn't realize it consciously at the time. I'm like, why is everything happening? And then subconsciously, like, holy shit, it's this fucking assumption. Everything's built on that. And then, of course, once you identify it, then you process it, you release it. But the big problem with our subconscious, like, again, as I said, we don't know. It's like, it's hard to identify it. It's like, it's buried for a fucking reason. If you right now, it's like, there's all these traumatic experiences, like, it's buried for a reason, and you don't know that they're actually running your entire life. Okay. Another one is, say, your definition of love or of a relationship. If say you're a kid and your parents fight or something, and or say it's like you feel like a massive sense of abandonment. That's your definition of love, and that becomes like in your subconscious. And now it's like consciously you may tell yourself, hey, I want a really healthy relationship with a girl. Subconsciously, what's the belief? No, a relationship equals abandonment. A relationship equals fighting, like my parents used to do. And then that's what's going to run you, and that's what your relationships are going to be. Okay, so just with these examples here, you can see how important it is to dive into your subconscious, and how important it is to identify the different thought patterns that are running you, the ones that are not helping you, those assumptions you want to get rid of, and the shit you really have to process. Because until you do, it doesn't really matter what you do externally. Like there is like reference experiences help, willpower helps, but you want to be hitting it at both angles. Okay, if you take that example of, let's just say that thought, I'm not worthy, I'm a piece of shit, I'm bullied. You can change that by just fucking tons of willpower on, no, I am enough, I am enough, I am enough. And then getting external references with women that you are enough. With time, yeah, that'll kind of like get like the balance will tip, let's just say. But at the same time, why not do both? Why not be like, I am good enough, get references reinforcing that, while at the same time releasing all the bullshit in your subconscious that I'm not good enough. Okay, so this is important to understand. If you look at your life right now, and you can oftentimes see it by just different patterns. If you look at, say, your life story, your life situation, it's like, what has been happening more than once? If you look at game, if you're going out and talking to a girl, what's the usual interaction? What's the usual sticking point? What's just like, what are the patterns? If you take a year of you going out, what are the patterns in your interactions? What are the patterns in your relationships? What are the patterns in your friendships? So on and so forth. And you have to kind of identify those patterns. And as I said, most of the time they always link back to childhood. Okay. And until, it's pretty much you just re-experiencing like those childhood traumas over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter, like most of the time too, it's like how successful you become. Because even if you get, say, more girls, you're probably going to self-sabotage like all those relationships and reinforce once again, like, see, I told you you're not good enough. It's what I said in the beginning here, where if you're dating a girl, and I'll see this with guys who break up with a girl, there's that saying, to get over your ex, go fuck 10 other girls. To kind of get you back in abundance. But what guys do is they break up with their girlfriend. They're like, oh, I'm going to go fuck 10 other girls. But they're fucking the 10 other girls because of the breakup, always reinforcing the breakup built on that assumption there. And of course, that just makes it stronger. And of course, you're going to miss your ex even more, even if you fuck the 10 other girls, because you're always thinking about the ex, reinforcing the ex. Okay? It's until you process that, you can then move on. If you're learning game on that assumption, I'm not a piece of shit, I'm not good enough, you're going to keep reinforcing that. Even all your successes, you will find a way to link it back to, I told you you're not good enough. Okay? So one of the practices that I highly recommend you take on, and this is a practice you do when you're at home. Okay, this is not the out in the field practice. This is the practice when you're at home, is sitting down and kind of going through your entire life, like your life story, and going through these different, usually traumatic experiences that kind of originated these thought patterns or these assumptions. Okay, if you were bullied in school, it's bringing your attention to, okay, here's the experience of when I'm bullied. Because we all go through it. Okay, we all go through anxiety, turbulence, like all these, like, just, again, traumatic experiences, and they stay with us. And you have to go through it. And you have to learn to, one, identify them, and two, learn to process them. Okay, so this means go through your life story. And we'll crack in some Q&A here and, just kind of take a few examples. But whatever it is, okay, it's like we all have it. And it's usually, it may be tough, by the way. You may be like, oh, I don't have anything. But it's like, get personal. It's like personal introspection. That's a skill you develop, funny enough. But it's like not running away from it and just going into it. Like dive into your fucking subconscious. Be like, okay, what are some like really traumatic experiences? Bullied is one. Some others are usually, again, those stories you just don't even tell your friends about. Like the shit that's just really personal. Different insecurities. That's a big one. Especially as a guy. It's like if you're insecure, let's just say, a big one for a lot of guys is they're insecure about sex. They're insecure about their body. They're insecure about their dick size. Shit like that. You can't really tell anyone about that. If you tell your buddy, it's like, it's super embarrassing. So that's like your own little secret. and then you shove it in your subconscious. And guess what? That shit will run you. So it's usually stuff like that where it's like extremely personal. If it's something that happened in your family, if it's something, just any kind of like trauma. Okay, it's like the stuff you try to ignore. The more you try to ignore it, that's the stuff you have to bring your attention to. And basically, the process involves, okay, it's not suppressing it, it's not expressing it, it's not trying to escape it, it's learning how to process it and release it. Okay, and the way that I personally go about it, and I'd recommend you try out, is in, once again, the happiness series on my YouTube videos here below. It's the video How to Let Go, and it's basically through breathing. It's, bringing your attention to the feeling of that traumatic experience. And it may be tough at first because you'll be scared of re-experiencing it. And then processing it by bringing it up and letting it go. Like not judging it, just letting it run its course, bringing it up, letting it go. Okay. Watch that video for sure. But this is something that if you do it on a daily basis, like you again, it doesn't mean don't go out. You still have to go out at the same time. But if you do both, you'll just fucking kill it. Okay. And even me, like here's another recent one, like the media scandal. There's one. Like that was huge. It's like me going through that. Like I remember even after I'm like, oh, I'm over it now. I'm over it. Learn my lesson, so on and so forth. I'm over it. But no, there's still like parts where it's like there's different little things that are just not resolved. And probably at this point too, there's still little things that are just not resolved. And what do I do? It's like, well, one, it's like, don't prevent that from taking action. Like still go out and take action. But another one, just like for me, it was like just sitting there and like replaying different things. Summoning the different emotions, like the shit that at the time I'm like, oh, I don't have time to deal with this, like suppress it, bringing that back up, different things that happen, like boom, now this happened, it's like, oh fuck, everything got worse, it's like replay it. And it was literally me just like sitting down like this, like replaying it, being like, well, what were the emotions I felt, picture myself being there, whatever traumatic experience, say it was bullying, it's you sitting down right now and being like, well, what was it like really picture it, like I was bullied, what was it like? What was the kid's name? What was the situation? What's like the first environment that comes to mind? How did I feel? If it was hurt, let the feeling of hurt like fully come up. It's like you have to let all those emotions mature, and then through that breathing exercise, let them go. And until you do, they're going to stay there. Okay? And that's really the skill set. It's like understanding this whole dynamic of conscious, subconscious, understanding that a lot of those assumptions, a lot of the place it's coming from, a lot of the being is in your subconscious, and it's the wrong shit. Then from there, identifying it, and from there, releasing it, letting it go. Don't expect to pull everything up out of your subconscious right now. Okay, like there's a lot of fear around it. It's like, remember, you've been suppressing this shit and keeping it there probably for years. You're not supposed to be like, oh, hey, let's bring up all that shit. Let's bring up all these traumatic memories. It's like, no, you've been suppressing them for a fucking reason. Okay, probably like the thought, like if you really follow it deep down inside, is like you think if you bring it up, you're gonna die. Okay, you think if you process that, you're gonna die. So it's just like you're gonna fucking like keep it there. There's a lot of resistance around this. Oftentimes too, with the breathing exercise, you have to release the resistance about bringing that out of your subconscious before bringing it out. But understand that there's resistance. It's there for a reason. And you'll probably just get a little bit at a time. Okay, this is a practice that you do on a daily basis. Okay, a daily basis, you tap into it, you bring some up. And every day, sometimes your subconscious will give you a little bit more, sometimes just a crumb. Okay, it's like whatever you're just ready to release right now. And a lot of it you won't know till maybe like a couple weeks in. Like for me, if I take that identifying with the kind of like the destructive artist, like just making situations pop. At first, I was like, whoa, that's weird. I noticed the pattern, okay, making things pop. Where did that come from? And I'm like, shit, I don't fucking know. And then, I was like, okay, I don't know. It's there. It's in my subconscious. I just don't know. I couldn't bring it up. And then after a while, it's like, wait a minute. That kind of goes back to different movies that I watched when I was younger. That's interesting. Oh, shit, that actually comes back to this one specific movie. That's over time. Oh, shit, even when I was a kid playing toys, I was like created these dramatic situations with the toys. So it's like all these memories that just kind of, once you kind of bring your awareness and you just trust, like stay with it, and like over a period of time, like your subconscious will release more and more and more. So don't freak out right now if you're like, I don't know. No, it's like, no, it's like at least you're bringing your awareness to it. And this is a process. Okay. It happens over time. I'm reading through some of the comments now. Okay, my parents divorced when I was 5, felt abandoned. My parents keep comparing me to other kids and how good they are. Now I have issues feeling not good enough. Boom, there's a classic example. Okay, now if you think of it here, it's like there's the situations where it's like, your parents, you feel like abandonment. So it's like there's probably massive fear of being alone. And obviously that, like, if you're like, well, why am I so attached to the outcome? It's like, dude, no shit. Like, there's that fear of you being alone, of you being abandoned, And until you do that, like, you can work on the actions, you can work on the doing, but you have to release this too. The other one too, where it's like, hey, I'm not good enough. They're always comparing me to other people. Like, you may tell yourself even now, like, oh, I'm over it. I was a kid. Like, your parents may even fucking like, hey, we apologize. We were way too hard on you. You were an awesome kid. We love you. You're not abandoned, and so on and so forth. You're like, yeah, consciously, yeah, that makes sense. Subconsciously, it's like, it's still there. So for you, what you're going to have to do is sit down and like go through those experiences. Go through what it felt like at a time when you were a fucking kid, experiencing this abandonment, experiencing, like, oh shit, I'm not good enough. Oh, these are, other kids are better than me. Like, how did it feel? How did it feel when your parents did that? Like, those specific experiences, it's about bringing that up. Okay, bringing it up, not judging it, and then of course through that breathing exercise, releasing it. And this is something you do once again on a daily basis, and you'll realize suddenly when you go out, there'll be a little less of that thought. Okay, it's not just going to flip to, oh, I'm perfectly good enough. Like, these are thought patterns you that are on repeat over a long period of time. But if you combine this with going out, your results will just fucking explode. Drew and my family is pretty fucked up growing up. My mom and dad were cheated on as a kid. I bought into the idea that polygamy is bad. Now I've accepted that abundance is key, but now that you mention this, old feelings are resurfacing, and turns out I never really dealt with it. Perfect. There's another awesome example, dude. It's like, yeah, you're like, oh, abundance is key, and it's so funny. Like, this is how I like this. Okay, this is how your subconscious will get you too. It's like you think consciously you're over it, and if you want a little test to see, it's well, here, for example, we talk about it. It's like those old feelings surface again. So you're like, oh shit, they're still there. You've been telling yourself consciously, it's over. I'm over it. I'm over it. Abundance, no, because you haven't fully processed them. I have the same with, like, let's just take the media scandal. There were different, different people that I'm still close to now, but there were different arguments over certain things. And there was one person in particular where there was like, shit just got very heated. Okay, just the nature of the circumstances. And I hated that person. Like, at the time, I hated. There were like deep feelings of hate towards that person. And once everything kind of quieted down, I'm like, okay. I logically looked at him. Okay, I can see that person's perspective. Okay, that makes sense. So on and so forth. I'm over it. Consciously, I'm over it. Until, and I'd even see that person. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm over it. All good. Until any kind of little disagreement popped up again. Nothing to even do with the media scandal, just little disagreement, and that just triggered all that other shit. We're like, oh, this fucking person, like, all that shit would come out. So anytime you're triggered, Eckhart Tolle calls it a pain body attack. A little thing, like it just triggers a lot. That there is where you have to fucking bring your attention. Like, holy shit, like, I'm suppressing something there, So for you, here's one right now. It's like that brought it up. Like, holy shit, you have to go dive deep and like actually process it. Are we mostly looking at childhood or recent events too? All events. But most of the time, the strongest ones are from your childhood, because at the time you don't really know how to process them. Let's just say as well as now. Like, you don't have as much of an understanding of the world. Like, things just overwhelm you a lot easier when you're a kid. So you're like, like, it's overwhelmed. And maybe if you had that same experience now, you'd be like, oh, whatever. But as a kid, it's like, oh my God. Like, say you do something bad and your parents punish you. You may interpret that, just something like that is like, I'm abandoned, I'm alone, I'm going to die. Traumatic. Boom. There, now it's stuck with you. So usually it's as a kid. And also because it happens when you're a kid, it's running in your subconscious for all those years. So usually there's a lot more momentum, and the thought pattern or the assumption is a lot stronger than, say, more recent events. But recent events too, like me with the media scandal, that affected me big time. But recent events usually, and this is what's interesting, are always linked to a childhood event. Some of these traumas, to actually like bring them up, it's as traumatizing, if not more traumatizing, than going out and interacting with girls. It's pretty wacky. It's like the big ones, bringing that up, like sitting down and like really bringing it up. Like I'll do it eyes closed and really letting those emotions take over. You'll fucking cry. It's intense. Okay, like remember, you've been suppressing it for a reason. How do we know it's been done successfully? I don't know, man. It's like I don't know if there's like a finish line. I personally just keep doing it, and then with time, everything just gets a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. You'll see you'll just get less reactive. Like you'll get less triggered by different things, and you'll just notice like your results will just kind of improve. Like there won't be as many of those thoughts like, oh, you're a piece of shit. I don't know if it's like perfect. Like how do we know? It's like how do I know when I've mastered game 100%? There's no finish line really. I just recommend doing this as like on top of going out, like as an extra practice. One thing I will say too is that sometimes it does have to get quote unquote worse before it gets better. Like say, it's like you've been suppressing like this traumatic experience, suddenly bringing it up. Usually there's that resistance because you're scared of bringing it up. And then once you bring up a little bit, sometimes it's just a little bit, but sometimes the floodgates open and everything comes rushing out. And as I said, you're overwhelmed, in tears, like all that shit takes over. And it may even take a few days to, keep doing this, like really let it all out. So during those few days, there's a little fucking dip. But you need that dip to go up. Okay. Otherwise it's always going to be there, and you can't keep running away from it. You can't keep pretending like it's not there. Cause even though you're not necessarily aware of those thoughts or assumptions, they're still active. My self-esteem is tied entirely in terms of what people think of me. Made fun of being fat and having man boobs from my parents' family as a kid. I'm in better shape now, but still feel like a piece of shit. Another example. It's like, like how crazy is this? It's like you're a kid and people mock you. It's like, okay, you're fat, man boobs, so on and so forth. Now you got more in shape. Consciously, you're like, hey, I'm in shape. I did everything I could. Subconsciously, no, you're still fat. You still little fat boy. Like that's the shit that your subconscious mind's telling you. It's pretty crazy. It's the same as someone who's like, again, it's like you could be like, oh, I don't deserve women. So you even get a girl in a relationship, like, you'll fuck it up. It's like, oh, I have the girl. I did it. You don't deserve her. It's like that shit will run your life until you bring it up and release it. So for you, my advice to you is like sit down and like bring up all those fucking memories, all those, feelings surrounding you being made fun of for being fat, for having man boobs, your parents, your family, your friends making fun of you, like specific situations. Like sit down and replay it. How did it feel? You're sitting there. How did it feel? What are the mean things they told you? What were the emotions you felt? Bring them up. Experience them again now, which is the last thing you want to do. But experience them again now, and then watch that video that I'll put here below to release them. Say you had like a troubled childhood with your father. Maybe you moved away. Maybe now it's like whatever, you think you're cool with your dad, and you may be right at this point. You're like, I was young, we had a little drama, but we're all good now. And although you may be good, that same emotion that you experienced with him most likely is still active in your life, and you'll project it on other people. So, I remember feeling this, like I felt like a lot of the times, like different employers that I have, I'd kind of project the dad role and be like, it was like the same type of fucking energy that was surrounding, say, my dad and me when I was a kid. So that's pretty interesting. So it's like that same thing would just keep being there, and until you actually process that, you're just going to keep experiencing it again and again and again. So what have you experienced again and again and again? Identify that, and then look at where did that come from? When was some other times I experienced this? Maybe when I was younger, any times when I was a kid when I experienced this, and just bringing a lot of attention to that, and through the breathing exercises, trying to let it go. Keep in mind, your subconscious, that's 90%, that's most of what's running your life. There's a lot of stuff in there that's not the right being, or it's not the right place that stuff, the doing should be coming from, let's just say. And until you bring it to the surface and release it, it'll keep running your life. And it doesn't matter what you do, it'll be built on the wrong being. So you need to bring that into, awareness. Look at different patterns in your life, different times where you might emotions kind of take over. Try to identify those patterns, try to identify where they come from, different traumatic experiences, different things that you haven't processed or released, and then make it a habit on top of going out. It's doing both, of following, again, that breathing exercise and letting it go.